So, challenge and gift of equanimity. The virtue and value of equanimity is extolled and advocated by a number of major religions and ancient philosophies. Is it an impossible task to develop and maintain calmness and composure, especially in difficult situations, throughout our journey from me to we to the oneness of all? In this presentation, we'll consider some ideas for the what, why, and how in this pursuit. What? Equanimity, the definition. I'm not going to read the Latin, I can't pronounce that. Is a state of psychological stability and composure which is undisturbed by experience of or exposure to emotions, pain, or other phenomena that may cause others to lose the balance of their mind. There are 4 sublime states of mind that have been taught by Buddha: love or loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and the last one, equanimity. Equanimity is the foundation for wisdom and freedom and for compassion and love. It is not, as some have mistaken, a dryness, coolness, indifference, or aloofness. It is not the suppression of feelings, apathy, or inexpressiveness. From the Dalai Lama, the near enemy of equanimity is indifference or callousness, and is fear-based, which is not what acknowledging the thoughts and feelings and going beyond them is. Remaining indifferent to other people's needs or their suffering is certainly not considered a form of equanimity. Masters recommend practicing equanimity towards beings by contemplating how all beings are similar to ourselves and that they too wish to gain happiness and be free of suffering, regardless of whether we would consider them our friends, enemies, or strangers. It follows that all beings, and ourself, should be treated with a very deep sense of care, so the link between equanimity, loving kindness, and compassion is very strong. That's the end of the quote from the Dalai Lama. In accepting and surrendering, not ignoring our true feelings, we can be reminded of the story of the 2 wolves. In the original proverb, a grandfather says, "There are 2 wolves fighting inside him, an evil one and a good one." The grandson asks, "Who will win?" To be answered, "The one you feed the most." You see, the light wolf needs the dark wolf at his side. To feed only one would starve the other, and they will become uncontrollable. To feed and care for both means they will serve you well and do nothing that is not part of something greater, something good, something of life. The Buddha described equanimity as a mind that is abundant, immeasurable, and without hostility or ill will. In other words, it is the capacity to remain neutral, to observe from a distance and be at peace without getting caught up in what we observe. It's the capacity to see the big picture with understanding. In essence, it is taking nothing personally, refusing to get caught up in the drama, either our own or others. Why? Why does equanimity matter? What is the point of it? I like that picture there. So from a guy called John Homewood, equanimity, one of the most sublime emotions of Buddhist practice, is the ground for wisdom and freedom and the protector of compassion and love. While some may think of equanimity as dry neutrality or cool aloofness, mature equanimity produces a radiance and a warmth of being. The Buddha described a mind filled with equanimity as abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. There's a theosophist, and I hope I say the name right, Raghavan N. Iyer, who is both a university professor and a spiritual teacher, a lifelong theosophist and a creator of the Hermes magazine, and he had a bio that said 3 things that will affect our humanity for centuries to come. And the 3 things were that his profound insights into the spiritual promise and therapeutic trials of contemporary man, and his radical proposals for creative modes of individual and collective growth, and his deep devotion to a new and a more vibrant world culture will continue to resonate to myriad receptive souls for generations and centuries to come. He said, "Each person by self-study and self-examination helps to mitigate the obscuration of the golden threadlight, which is broken up into details, lost in the externals, caught up in particular events, through memories looking backwards and through wish fulfillment, producing unreal psychic states. All must banish this obscuration on their own." It reminded me of the mirrors you talked about last night, actually. He's still talking. "In the end, however, one cannot activate the golden cord, as Plato called it, without the exhilaration of self-transcendence. Paradoxically, when you are truly yourself, you forget yourself. To be calmly engaged in the manifestations of the golden thread is to increase awareness of all other beings and the whole of life." End quote. From H.P. Blavatsky, The Voice of the Silence. Saith the pupil, "Teacher, what shall I do to reach to wisdom? O wise one, what to gain perfection?" The answer, "Search for the path." Paths, plural, by the way. "But, O disciple, be of clean heart before thou startest on thy journey. Before thou takest thy first step, learn to discern the real from the false, the ever-fleeting from the everlasting. Learn above all to separate head learning from soul wisdom, the eye from the heart doctrine." End quote. Rudolf Steiner. "By cultivating equanimity, you are given the choice to accept rather than struggle with these emotions. In other words, through equanimity, you learn to acknowledge your emotions and let them be, instead of letting them overwhelm you. Equanimity allows us to stand in the midst of conflict or crisis in a way where we are balanced, grounded, and centered. It allows us to remain upright in the face of the strong winds of conflict and crisis, such as blame, failure, pain, or disrepute, the winds that set us up for suffering when they begin to blow. Howling gales sometimes. Equanimity protects us from being blown over and helps us stay on an even keel. Have you ever been in a situation where around you people are really wound up, spiraling, really angry or in a panic, or even deliberately misleading with gossip? I think we've probably all got that to relate to in some form. And when those with them support that, either unintentionally or intentionally, being in that state, it escalates really quickly, and the real point and opportunity of the situation is lost and buried in the hype created. So you stay in a whirlpool of blur. Beware the constantly swinging pendulum, which doesn't get to stillness. Learning to remain calm in the storm facilitates not adding to the confusion and chaos that already exists. It means balancing, not ignoring, fear and negativity with peace and light. In calmness comes clarity. Is this easy to achieve? No, everything, no. I can speak from experience. I have a number of extreme circumstances, so I'm not standing here saying this from no direct perspective of being challenged in some very intense situations. So I do definitely get it. And I don't think it is our natural human default to keep calm and carry on. Part of what helps me to get closer to equanimity is knowing the extremes of not being in that state and understanding my opportunity is in my choice to either stay in those swings or not. The Dalai Lama commented, "The experience of meditation will give you the ability to prevent yourself from being overwhelmed by circumstances, good or bad. You will not fall into extreme states of mind. You will not get overexcited or depressed. Your attitude toward circumstances and events will be as if you were someone observing the mind without being drawn away by circumstances. You are not preoccupied by what arises in the mind, nor does it cause you any distress. You are free from conceptuality or any form of objectifying. And so it really does help you in allowing you to be free from being caught up in the play of emotions, end quote. Another aspect to why equanimity matters, and just by the way, that's equanimity in Sanskrit, FYI, because it is my favourite word, as Linda mentioned. Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned that it's our opportunity to create true community, stating the most precious gift we can offer others is our presence. To build a Sangha that lives in harmony and awareness is the most noble task, end quote. In human society, which is at present a chaos rather than a cosmos, we each strive to secure a balance between uniqueness and universality, and to seek some abiding basis of union beyond the perceived differences and self. It does not take much effort to see and experience the challenge in achieving equanimity within a diverse personality group, a work in constant progress. Key to Theosophy notes, a true Theosophist must bring themselves to live as one. The one self has to forget itself for the many selves, end quote. How? So how do we do this amazing thing? Well, we all need to always be mindful that it isn't one size fits all. There are levels, spirals, and it's very much a personal journey. Now, I actually have a little example here. I need 2 people, please. I'll get one of you to go over there and one of you to come here. So, it not being completely level is a reflection of my human expression and the limitations of that, so just bear that in mind. This is the middle way, so we're not going to mess with that, all right? So, when we come into this space, you don't get it yet. You have to wait till you're given it, actually. We all have things that we are gifted in whichever incarnation. So this is your paradigms, your experience. This is what you requested. And if you could each put them in the end ones. Is it the same? Actually, they are pretty similar. They're supposed to be different for the example, but that's okay. So the point of that was just something relevant and relative to see that we come into this space, we're all expressing individuality. It's not the same. We're different aspects, and balancing it out is not the same for each of us. Thank you very much. Now, just another note that we have the example, and you made me think of it too, Richard, of Thoth, who measures the lightness of the heart with a feather. So, Thoth, go look up Thoth, he's cool. We need to remember that while we might be in the same storm, we are not all in the same boat, or yacht, or canoe, or maybe a bit of wood that's we've just grabbed onto in the rush. We need to remember that there isn't a set detail or rote application for everyone, other than the premise of be kind. Equanimity is a skill of mind and heart to be developed in personal practice. From Key to Theosophy, a true Theosophist must put in practice the loftiest moral ideal, must strive to realise their unity with the whole of humanity and work ceaselessly for others. What every person needs first is to find themselves and then take an honest inventory of their subjective possessions. How many do? All are willing to work for their own development and progress, very few for those of others. Some earnestly endeavour to realise theosophy in their lives, while others desire only to know of, not practice, it, and others still may have joined the society out of a possibly passing curiosity, end quote. A true family community, assembly or sangha, embraces all aspects ideally within the measure of ultimate harmony. We can have harmony without agreement. What is required is openness, understanding and authentic communication. and to be kind to ourselves and others as we know the foibles of our human condition. Preferably, we can develop our communication with most ego layers left out on the coat hook. HPB commented to Judge, and I've said this at the AGM, the full quote is, "If you have no more personal ambition than I have, and I know you have not only combativeness, it will be no more sacrifice for you than it was for me to have Olcott as my president. Damn him from morn to night, and still recognise that there is no better man for the work than he is," end quote. A reminder that we are each bringing different aspects to any task and to life, including personal failings. Not being perfect doesn't mean you're not right for the task at that time. Just do your best with humility and integrity, and understand that point for both yourself and extend that understanding to all who are just doing their best. What is a key thing that creates conflict and sabotages community? Just a couple of things that you might have examples. Disagreements. Why do people disagree? What's
Difference in opinion.
Yeah, having to personal agenda.
Judgment.
Yeah. So
Resources.
yeah. There's all sorts.
Because I want to be right.
Yeah, and I actually put self-need, and sometimes there's whatever's happening, you're meeting the highest need at that time, and it's pretty hard navigating, working out what that need is. But when you have that understanding, it helps that navigation. From Key to Theosophy, all action on every plane produces disturbance in the balanced harmony of the universe, and the vibrations so produced will continue to roll backwards and forwards if the area is limited till equilibrium is restored. We Theosophists, however, say that good and harmony, evil and disharmony are synonymous. Further, we maintain that all pain and suffering are the results of want of harmony, and that the one terrible and only cause of disturbance of harmony is selfishness in some form or another, end quote. From The Secret Doctrine, it is man who plants and creates causes, and karmic law adjusts the effects, which adjustment is not an act, but universal harmony, tending ever to resume its original position, like a tree bough or branch which, bent down too forcibly, rebounds with corresponding vigour. If it happens to dislocate the arm that tried to bend it out of its natural position, shall we say it is the bough that broke the arm, or that our own folly has brought us grief? Karma has never sought to destroy intellectual and individual liberty, like the God invented by the monotheists. It has not involved its decrees in darkness purposely to perplex man, nor shall it punish him who dares to scrutinise its mysteries. On the contrary, he who unveils through study and meditation its intricate paths and throws light on those dark ways, in the windings of which so many men perish owing to their ignorance of the labyrinth of life, is working for the good of his fellow men, end quote. Who's heard of Mary Anderson? Great. I think Australian, native Australian, maybe. 1929 to 2000 was her lifespan. And she was an international secretary of the TS, former vice president, many years secretary of the European Federation, and lectured widely for the society in many countries and several languages, and contributed to the Theosophist and International Journal of the TS. She wrote, "Love and hate are both attachment, of a positive and of a negative nature, respectively. Indifference is attachment to non-attachment, to the avoidance of attachment. If we are without personal love, without hate, and without indifference, we are without personal attachment, and thus without desires. As a result, we can see all things clearly and objectively, and react appropriately in each individual case with discrimination, while realizing that the same inner divinity dwells in all things. This means that we can remain calm, unruffled, and harmonious. Thus, virtue develops spontaneously. Benevolence, sympathy, justice, etc. arise from the intuitive identification of the individual with others, although unknown to the personality, end quote. In a 2015 study, researchers set out to establish that people who practice mindfulness and meditation exhibited greater equanimity as one of the many side benefits. The researchers of that study also noted that Buddhism is clear that while mindfulness and equanimity are closely related, they have separate distinctions because they each use a different quality of mind in having the experience. For example, mindfulness reflects the conscious awareness of what is occurring. Equanimity allows this awareness to be unbiased and non-reactive. John Algeo noted, "It has been said meditation is not what you think." And that is correct in two senses. We may think that meditation is thinking about something, but thinking about something is concentration, a prerequisite to meditation, not meditation itself. Meditation is not thinking at all, but instead experiencing an inner reality that is deeper than all feelings and thoughts. It is being calm, peaceful, energized, comforted, strengthened, and enlightened. Athletes call it being in the zone or the flow. Mystics call it listening to the voice of the silence, end quote. My personal term is a peace point. And it's when you recognise it, it's not as hard to get to each time. There are several qualities that support the development of equanimity, feeling comfortable in any setting or with any group without the need to find fault or blame. Integrity, wisdom, a well-developed mind, sense of well-being, understanding, respect others as their own author, perspective and insight, freedom from reaction. In some ways, to cultivate equanimity, no matter what challenges you face, as markers along the way, you have to get wet. Apply practice, not just theory, to start where you are now, right now. One cannot cross the river merely by standing and staring at the water. Go ahead and take a dip. Explore and experience to know what works for you. Understand it isn't a straight line. Be content to take baby steps in the direction of equanimity. Regard the universal law of impermanence as a friend in non-attachment, not indifference. Change is the only constant in life. That was said by Greek philosopher Heraclitus. Ego and equanimity do not live together in harmony. As above, so below. Observe the perfection in the imperfection in nature's patterns, where everything is in harmony. Help create balance by having things in your life you love doing. Respond versus react. The more serious you survive, the less reactive you become. Sense of humour helps, and I believe the universe has a sense of humour. Take pause for a breath, but don't give up when you stuff up. Changing paradigms and patterns is a process. The progress you make, you take. Perhaps in some of our ongoing conversations while we're at convention, we can share as appropriate and without imposing some ways in your own story you've found useful in acute circumstances not to get stuck in a skewed world with a population of one and a looped solitary story. A statement from Yogi Bhajan. If you're willing to look at another person's behaviour toward you as a reflection of the state of their relationship with themselves, rather than a statement about your value as a person, then you will, over a period of time, cease to react at all. That says equanimity rules. Not sure if the type's clear. If we can use information and tools to enhance calm clarity, what we perceive and our understanding of it illuminates. Who's heard of Anita Morjani? Couple, okay, a few. She had a near-death experience, and a bit like Eben Alexander, came back and relayed and shared what was helpful. So her analogy was that for her it was like she was in a warehouse and it was pitch black. She only had a really cheap flashlight, so she could only see small fragments of the whole view and not very clearly. Everything you know about what's contained in this enormous space is what you've seen by the beam of one small flashlight. Whenever you want to look for something, you may or may not find it, but that doesn't mean the thing doesn't exist. It's there, but you just haven't shone your light on it. And even when you do, the object you see may be difficult to make out. You may get a fairly clear idea of it, but often you're left wondering. You can only see what your light is focused on and only identify that which you already know. Then, for the briefest moment, the lights were fully turned on, and she saw and understood the amazing expanse of it and how much cool stuff was there, and that she was part of the cool stuff. Be the Taurus energy field you already are. Move in and then through and beyond and out. Continue. Repeat. This is usually a well-tracked spiral path, not a quantum leap. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Flick the switch to see your thread in the unfolding tapestry and weave in your developing equanimity to expand our harmonious Sangha. And I'll finish with a quote from Max Ehrmann's Desiderata. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt, the universe is unfolding as it should. So I think that's me.